Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Do and Drew Conspiracy. And we're going to get today started as per the usual with some breathing together. We're going to try a boxed breathing technique today. Very simple, similar to what we did last time, but just a slight variation. So the idea is to inhale for 4 seconds, hold at the top for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold at the bottom and we for 4 seconds, and we'll repeat that 3 times since that's a nice number. So yes, let us conspire. All right, we're dropped in. We've conspired together, and
I felt the breath of God come across me on that last breath, so that was good.
yeah, absolutely. As my friend Zach says, oxygen is the original plant medicine. So
Right.
yeah, we're getting a little high on O2. Anyway, welcome to the show. Yeah, we're gonna have Dale read a poem to get his input started here. So let's see what we come up with.
So I couldn't find transcripts of my recent stuff, but I always have my fallback fossil fuel for the brain, which is the second of my 5 books on Amazon. And I just thought I'd open randomly and see what comes out. And this is called A Psalm for Beat Generations, which seems to be pretty good for the show. Hey, cool as hep cat daddy o Jesus watching us from your throne. What is this death gig, which is like an improv jazz solo being silenced, leaving only cacophony without a chord? For harmony, just as it is like Kerouac without Moriarty to drive him as a demon to shows for which they lived, both of whom now practice their art in your mystical sphere. But why must all fun culminate in mortality as we seek romance with a single partner you alone can create? Even if we enjoy the wicked bliss of uncommitted sex, before finding the mate we crave to wed in heaven. And why can't we indulge in unexpurgated joy of our youth, slipping away without a lover to share the fruit of sin, for which you died and arose, promising a spiritual counselor to plead case for universal weakness of human hedonism, trying to realize the happiness and grace of this funky world, as I entreat you to forgive my iniquities of reality, where you were only man able to live by standards of conduct demanded by laws Father Jehovah gave to fearful populace. So that's part of my 21st century Psalms collection. At one point I figured nobody had done any Psalms for about 3,000 years, so I wrote about 25 Psalms, and they're all actually included in this book. But and just to like promote this book a little bit, this is basically my this is the book I tell people to begin with because it has like 5 sections, and each section is a different type of poetry, a different type of form, and so like familiarizes you with like my themes and everything, and I just but that's called a Psalm for the Beat Generation, which of course is making a big resurrection now.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we can probably put the text of that poem and the link to where you can get it in our description so that it's available for everyone. Excellent, Dale. Appreciate that. And I wanted to bring a little physics to the equation this morning. Doing a little research on Nikola Tesla specifically, and he has a quote that says, "If you want to understand the nature of the universe, it's important to understand energy, frequency, and vibration." So with frequency and vibration, we all emit a frequency depending on our thought patterns, our emotions, of what we're carrying at that moment. And there's a concept in physics called constructive interference and destructive interference. And with constructive interference, when waves of a similar frequency and in the same phase meet, they increase the amplitude of the wave. And when waves that are out of phase or out of frequency meet, especially if they're diametrically opposed, they actually cancel each other out and you end up with nothing. So I think, when we're interacting with other humans and we feel like a certain resonance, as they say, resonance is tied into that 100% because resonance is really the optimal frequency of both. So when both are coming in with their optimal frequency, they're really tuned in. They're both in resonance, and then they meet and double their amplitude. That's where we get the magic. And so I wanted to share that. And if Tesla thinks it's important, it probably is. So Dale and I think are on a similar wavelength, similar phase, similar frequency, and we hope the people joining us can feel that and are also in resonance with that frequency.
Well, I think it's important to, just to like preface this whole discussion with with what you said about Tesla. Everything is frequency wave, frequency vibration, and energy. And basically, from what I learned, frequency is just a way to measure the movement of waves. So basically, frequency and wave are the same thing. But not only does every human have a distinct and unique frequency and vibration, but also, this is in Think and Grow Rich and a lot of other big, important books about how the brain is a transmitting and receiving station for these vibrations coming from other people. And the more attuned you are to the vibrations in your own brain, the more you can, like, the law of attraction, like attracts like. So, so basically, you're looking for constructive interference, but, ideally there would be no interference at all. So that's really the goal, which is to get beyond the interference to just be in a constructive vibration with each other. To me, that's what it seems.
Beautiful. I like it. Yeah. Dale's always got to take it up another notch, Nothing wrong with that. We're going to go beyond Tesla, I mean, why not?
Well, people, of course, Tesla's been totally demonized and misunderstood and everything. And actually, if it wasn't for J.P. Morgan and his shutting down Tesla's electrical experiments, we would have had free energy for the last 150 years. But I'm not putting down Edison, but Edison is considered the great inventor and everything. But Tesla was light years ahead of Edison. It took Edison 10,000 tries to develop a light bulb, and Tesla was figuring out ways to power the universe. So that's sort of and it's a crime, and it is part of the dumbification or the simplification of people to keep Tesla in the dark. But more and more people are becoming aware of him, and on the one hand, Trump's uncle has all of Tesla's papers, but that can either be positive or negative, because if Trump has control of all the papers, then, he could be using these technologies to further his career, but also he could be hiding a lot of things that could be generally applicable.
Yeah, yeah, there is some intrigue there. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I do think it's important to recognize that the frequency of the planet is rising, and truth, it cannot be hidden any longer. And so I think we're seeing that play out in real time, and I think it will continue to do so. But I mean, yeah, Tesla is light years ahead for sure. And I learned that he lived in Colorado Springs
Right.
for 9 months. So that's where I'm at right now. And he
What
built his
tell us
largest.
about that lady you found on YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, he built the largest Tesla coil that he ever completed here in town. So, um, I found that out on his birthday, actually. The next day, I saw a post that said the previous day was his birthday. So, fun little synchronicity there. And, synchronicities are one of those things that indicate that we're in that resonance. We're in the vibration. So, they're always a nice thing to have happen and observe and appreciate, right? So, yeah,
Right.
I'm happy.
So, if we're talking about vibration and everything, the natural question is obviously, well, there are two. Like, first off, how do I raise my vibration? But also, and I think this is where, like, relevant for too many people these days is, how do I get out of these low vibrations that I'm stuck in? These vibrations of routine. How do I like come to a higher awareness? And I mean, one thing I found is that I use uh I use YouTube and my readers as my nightly news. I mean, like, they're tied into spirit. They might read cards and it might be quote anti-Christian or satanic or something, but they give good advice. And I know they don't have an agenda to like poison the planet or to start World War III. So I mean, awareness begins and grows with just insight into what you actually want. And the more you know what you want, the more you can pursue it, and the more you'll be in your vibration.
I I agree 100%. And along with that, I think, there is some, we're leaning into it, right? This idea of conspiring, breath work is certainly a way to tune the device to get into that resonant frequency where you do start to feel in more to what you're here to do, what your passions are, and desire, right? Desire is can be has a interesting connotation. But I think a lot of times there's a judgment around certain desires. Oh, I'm not supposed to desire whatever XYZ, a big car, or sex with a lot of women, or whatever it is. Right? We judge these desires, these innate human desires that come in, and when we do that, we start like it starts to distort our field a little bit. So I think it's important to understand when desires come in that you don't have to cling to every one, but to allow them, right?
Right.
I want a bowl of ice cream today. Okay, whatever. Maybe you're gonna
Well,
do that. Maybe you're not, but you're not judging it. You're not trying to suppress it. You're allowing it, and
well,
that's one of the tools.
they say the exact same thing about emotions too, but and I'm trying to get rid of my word "but" out of my vocabulary. But they do say the same thing about emotions, but ultimately, unless you have to, all awareness begins with a desire for something, and therefore, that the more you can express your desires or at least know your desires, the more focused you'll be. And the attention focus follows the attention, and intention follows attention. So um, so the more you are in tune with yourself, not only this is well, I'm not, but more you're in tune with yourself, the more your vibe will be high enough so that you'll be able to achieve what you want. And this sounds like sort of like manifesting woo woo, but it's also the fact is that if you realize that everything is frequency or vibration, then everything in the universe has a vibration that if you can match, it'll come to you like a magnet.
Heck yeah. Beautiful. Excellent, Dale. Yeah, I appreciate the back and forth on that. Yeah, it's a beautiful topic, and one I'm sure we will explore even more in the future.
And
But
actually, it's interesting now. We're starting with vibration because I was listening to someone today on YouTube, and she was talking about poetry and well, she was talking about the complex pro the bring the pro uh the complex frequencies. She just like mentioned this phrase, complex frequencies. So I wrote, poetry is the complex frequencies that bring light to the um, before the known, to bring light before the known. So basically, poetry is prophetic, and and that's why I say I'm the world's greatest poet because I feel that ultimately I'm focused on what the goal of poetry is, which is to enlighten and to entertain, but also to teach about, you know, to to teach in a unique way that can't be enunciated any other way, the uh, the essence of what existence is,
beautiful.
and that's
Yeah.
a complex frequency that very few people can tap into, and I feel very fortunate I have.
Yeah, poetry is absolutely an art form, and I think art in general is pointing to that, right? It is expressing something in a way that other things can't do, and there's lots of art forms that can do that. Poetry is one beautiful one, but it does make it what is true accessible. It's almost like music. Like you hear a song and the message of the song, you're not in resistance to that message generally, right? You're just enjoying the frequency. And so then it can, penetrate. And same with poetry, right? If you're just really enjoying the words and the ideas that are coming, then you're not sitting in resistance to that. You can accept it and have it become a part of you. And so there's a lot of power in art, both for good and for maybe not so good. So beware of what you are intaking is what I'll
Well,
say there.
I just had like a thought that most of the world has agnosia poetry. They can't read poetry. They say poetry's beyond me. I don't get it, and they never make an effort. And that's why for 5,000 poems I've been refining my ability to express myself because I feel that I sort of like jumped at one of my books is actually called For Those Who Hate Verse, and basically it's just like I'm trying to like jump that gulf between what modern poetry is, which is oh, the sun shines bright on the begonias I'm gardening, and and really like get to the core of like what the human experience is, and I think that the closer you get to that core, the more the message becomes not only universal but also understandable.
Yeah. Yes. I like that idea of universality, because there is a universal truth that underlies everything, right? And the more we can tap into that and point to that, the better, the happier, the more peaceful we can be, I think.
And this is a totally well, this is off the side. This is an aside, but yesterday in the podcast, the host asked me, you know, define psychosis for us, and I never like done that before. So I thought about it and I said, psychosis is playing in the universe beyond the matrix.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, sometimes it's fun to play with things that aren't, 3D real tactile. It's fun to play with other things and yeah, you might quote look crazy when you're doing that, but I think that's just a limited perspective. Let's expand what we perceive as this experience and not just limit it to five senses and, three dimensions. That's lame.
Right, right. So, if you want to continue to the topic of the day, what is who and what is due? I'm ready to get going.
Let's go.
Any preliminary questions or any preliminary observations you want to start before I basically explained this to you. So, if you want to say anything about it before we start, feel free.
Well, I guess my only note would be that we're we're all learning here. I'm learning as the audience is learning, and as Dale is explaining. But it's a course in how to better understand the nature of Dale as a human and as a complex being, and sort of his journey to get here. And I think understanding the personalities that you would like to highlight is a valuable way to do that. So yeah, I'm happy to let you have the time to explain so we can all learn something.
Oh yeah, I'll try to be as concise with this as possible because I know it can get confusing and overwhelming and everything. So basically, I call myself the five in one. There's the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and basically for the last 50 years until I reached the end of my basic like a God contract for the last 50 years. I, Roger Joseph Dale Edward Allen Tompkins Walsh, have thought I was God. So, about 2 weeks ago, that delusion exploded. And I got back to being Dale. And Dale has been, as I said, I was taken away from Dartmouth College in 1975 for my I'm God joke. And basically, I've been in therapy and basically proving to well, testing the limits of my beliefs that I was God. And after 50 years, after extensive exploration of myself and others, I have figured out that I am not God, I'm Dale. So, but basically, and Dale's back in Hackensack, which is the home that he built for himself after he was taken away from Dartmouth. So basically, at this point, I'm Dale. I'm actually due Dale, and we'll go into that. But so I'm back to Dale, but Dale is diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and I always used to have arguments with my doctor about whether I was a multiple or whether I was a schizophrenic, and I won't go into how that was resolved, but basically I feel I have five basic personalities: Dale, Dewey, Dude, Duck, and Genius. And then I also have like the big major four who are the backup. These are the heavy artillery and the starships, but that's Roger Deuster, which is my mansion, Stizonian Malcolmuk, who's the last quack from Hackensack, and then Dialena, which is my spaceship, which is what I call this Dale body. So basically, everything you see here is the Dialena body, but there are five basic personalities: Dale, Dewey, Duck, and Genius, and now the the lock on the safe of my personalities has come back to Dale after I had a death experience 40 years ago. So basically, uh, so this is all background. Let's get to the point, right, Andrew?
I know. I mean, I'm here for all of it, brother. So
I,
the
I'm ready.
context matters.
I'm rambling a little bit, but anyway, so I'm back to Dale now. But ultimately, my five personalities are all going to manifest. Dale manifested for the first 30 years of my life. Then Dale died in a thermonuclear holocaust in my own mind, and I became Dewey, and Dewey lasted 40 years until I became Dew, officially on the on the solar eclipse of April 8th, 2024. That was like when that was like the apocalyptic solar eclipse everybody was talking about, and that was basically my judgment day, and that's the day when I moved from Dewey to Do. So as I say, all of my personalities have five levels. Do you have a question, Andrew? Yeah.
No, no, I don't. I mean, we almost need a diagram for all this, but we'll do our best with that one.
So basically, what the important thing to know is that there are five levels of all my five personalities. So Dale began the whole process with his God period, and then uh, he went sane, straight, concrete, and Fred. And Fred Dale is when basically he had that vision of the world being blowing up, and he Dale officially died, and with him died his delusions that he was God and everything. So this lasted for the first 30 years of my life, and especially the last 10 years in Hackensack. So basically, I came to Hackensack when I was 20, and the death of Dale happened when I was 30 in 1984. So then I became Dewey. Now Dewey has five levels too. He has Dewey Death, Dewey Stealth, Dewey Health, Dewey Wealth, and Dewey Duck. And so basically, Dewey Death, I what was a period of like 7 to 10 years where Dewey, who was the son of Dale, was mourning the death of Dale and basically maintaining THC. Well, okay, so when Dale died, Dewey came in. Dale thought he was a god. Thought he was God. Dewey thinks he's an android. I mean, he's like the ultimate Terminator for humanity. You know, sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a good guy, as a Terminator. You know, but he's like the ultimate Duck warrior. So Dewey Death basically was in mourning for 7 years for the death of Dale. Then he became Dewey Stealth, which is a bomber, and he took off against the Mucks who had killed Dale, even though he didn't know who they were. It was like an unexplained enemy. Then there was Dewey Health, Wealth, and now Ducks. So basically, I went through the five levels of Dewey, and those ended about well, they ended on April 8th, 2024, when I became Dew. So so now we're in Dew, and Dew. If you want to compare dimensions, Dale is the first dimension. 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Dewey is the second dimension, which is 2 plus 2 equals 5. And Do is the third dimension, which is the matrix, which is the world, so that after 50 years, I'm finally living in the world of reality as Do. And that's, but there are like five levels of Do too. There's Dr. Do, Master Do, Commander Do, King Do, and Lord Do God. So basically, Lord Do God is in the future. Well, we're expecting Do to stay here for 30 years. So if you start with 2018, then the period of Do is basically going to go through 2048. So by that time, I would have like risen in wisdom and wealth and everything enough to be Lord do God, and then we can go to the duck stage, which is even more fun. But we won't go into that. But that's it. That's it, Andrew. At the moment, I just want to let you know that I'm officially Commander Dew at the moment. I'm the third level of Dew, and I'm Supreme Allied Dewey Dale Elite Leader, and I'm sort of like the Eisenhower of duck forces fighting the omniversal war against Muck. So, and THC, Teaneck Hackensack City, the holiest city, is my fortress that I've been building impregnable for 50 years, from which I'm directing the war. So that's it. And if you don't believe me, then I'm not surprised.
Well, I hope everyone was taking notes during that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, would you draw like parallels to like your? I mean, it sounds like you're drawing parallels to like your personal growth and like essentially like defining stages of your expansion. Does that sound right? I mean, is that essentially?
It is, but and what that's a very good question. So for for the longest time, basically for 65 years, I couldn't integrate the five. I couldn't be anybody but the personality that I was at the time. So Dale couldn't coexist with Dewey. In fact, Dewey and Dale would start a war if they coexisted with it. But now, now that we've gone through 40 years of Dewey death, and Dale is back home in Hackensack, and this is something. This is a Dale do historical fact that you might find interesting. So I said that Dale had his vision of the Earth being imploded in a thermonuclear holocaust on September 26, 1984, right? So, just out of curiosity, about a month ago, I looked up September 27th, 1984, just to see what was happening in the real world. And the headline was Kabul falls to the Taliban. So basically, that showed me it was the Afghani terrorists who took me out as Dale. And so basically, for the last 40 years, Dale has been fighting from the deepest pits of being a prisoner of Afghani terrorists to get back to Hackensack. And the fact that I have means not only that the victory is assured, but it also means that Dale has regained his integrity, not just from before 40 years, but from the integrity from before he was taken away from Dartmouth. And that's what's most exciting to me, Andrew, is this prospect of like rediscovering the Dale that I could have been for the last 50 years if I hadn't been chasing the delusion of being God.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a pretty major milestone for sure, and worth celebrating for sure. I'm happy you're here,
Yeah.
and we can coexist and not start any internal wars. That sounds like some major progress.
Well, one of the reasons I'm like so happy to do this podcast with you, Andrew, as I told you, I've been like looking for someone for about 3 months to do a podcast with and everything. But what I figured out in like the last 6 months, basically since beginning of 2025, is I've been subjected to a systematic repression of my voice and of myself, and by the dark forces, whether it's the evil doctors, the muck, the deep state, the Illuminati, whatever. Basically, they put me. What happened at Dartmouth was I feel that I got sentenced to 25 to life in Hackensack for the vicious murder reality in 1975. And I'm still waiting for parole to come up. But it's getting closer every day. And then I was thinking about it, and I said, well, even if I do get parole, do I want to leave Hackensack? I'm not even sure about that. But that's still in the future because I still have to give my parole in the first place. But yeah, so basically, I've been treated like a prisoner. A I won't say a political prisoner, but some sort of like a special prisoner where every time I started to really like break out of myself and express who I was as Dale, I got hospitalized and shot full of drugs again so that I would go back to the previous plateau, but then I would always like keep growing. So that's that's why I've got what that's why I'm in the 13th phase of my life progression of personalities.
Yeah, yeah. There's this concept of like the hero's journey and having like something to overcome and becoming something as a result of that journey. I mean, does that sound sort of like what these different entities have had to do? I don't know. I'm trying to like put it in context. My tiny
Right,
brain
right.
can
Well,
understand.
it's very relevant. You should say that because I took a writing course, a short book writing course with this writing coach named Don Montefusco, and she was very good. And I actually wrote a 50-page book about what happened at Dartmouth and how I got taken away and everything. And actually, I'm going to make that generally accessible. But anyway, so. Um, you know, getting that. Oh, I know where it's going. So basically, the book ends with my parents going left, I going left to follow them, and the doctor in the hospital saying, "No, Dale, you come with me," and that's where the book ends. So I gave it to an editor, a very experienced editor who's a good friend of mine and everything, and she said, "This is only half a book because." You're leaving the hero's journey at the very pit. People want to know how you got out of the pit and everything. So, you got to write another book. So I haven't gotten around to that, but I think that the book itself is valid just as like a testament of like what how you can get involved in the mental health system. But and actually I did write it as the first of a series of books, but I haven't gotten around to getting back to. Actually, I wrote like half the second book, and then I just put it away. So
Okay. Well, there's always more to come.
right,
Dale is a prolific writer, to say the least. So, a very creative soul, and I think that's important. I mean, we all are creative beings, and I think we sometimes stifle that creative energy. But man, the more you can lean into that and really bring your creation to this plane, I think is important.
right.
Yeah, Dale. All right. Well, I hope our audience has a better understanding of some of those nuances and details.
And and, and actually, this is something that's taken from my bestseller for the 20th century, Velvet Valor's Follies, Book Two, or The Flight of Dialina, which is the story of which is the apocalyptic romance of truly stylish and Velvet Velour and their child Zayla, who is the bride of God, and the blast off of their starship to Dialina, which is Dale's spaceship. But in that book, one of the most famous quotes is in an age where science is God, Dale is the only absolute. So I just in the interest of like helping people understand different personalities, I came up with this today. In a world where science is God, Dale is the absolute. In a world where money is God, do is the absolute.
In a world where war is God, Dewey is the absolute. In a world where source is God, duck is the absolute. In a world where God is God, genius is the absolute.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Maybe we'll leave people sitting with that. What do you think? uh, yeah. I won't pretend to fully comprehend everything, but I'm also experiencing a slightly different reality than you are, and so why would I, right? And I think to have the freedom to create these worlds is is pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. So that's my perspective, whatever that's worth. But yeah, I mean, it's a journey, right? And we're all on one. We just are experiencing it in a different way, and we get to kind of experience sort of an edge case with your perspective, and I think that can be valuable for people because maybe I don't know. It's just it gives it's an expanding perspective. That's how I view it, and your perspective is not limited in the way mine might have been historically, for sure. So I
Well,
appreciate it.
people have historically said, "How do you come up with this stuff?" And it's like, I'm living it.
Literally. Literally. Well, and everyone has a story, and someone else's story might sound just as unintelligent or crazy. Let's call it crazy. Why not? As yours, but it's coming from a completely different perspective, and it might sound normal to someone else, right? So what these words we throw around, I don't know. I don't know if they have any meaning anymore. To be quite frank, we're all here. We're all doing it. You are a physical being here on Earth at the moment, so we are sharing at least some component of this experience, and then we're also having our own, and that, boom, that's the nature of reality. We have our individual dream and the collective dream, and how we dream individually feeds into that collective dream, and so that's I don't see any harm or why I would judge your experience because I don't it's contributing to the collective just like everyone else's, and for better or worse, to be determined, right? But
Well,
I think it's for better.
well, so I think I said this in a podcast yesterday. I said, my definition of schizophrenia, which is a schizophrenic is someone who's living in a reality that was not conceived on Earth. So basically, I feel that since Dartmouth, I've been living in a reality conceived in heaven. And I've just been waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. And now, after 50 years of having to suppress myself, uh, the time has come for me to reach out. So, I'm at, I'll close with this. I always say I'll close with something, but, one thing I say is, it would have taken 11 days for the Jews to go from Egypt to the Promised Land. That geographically would have taken 11 days and took him 40 years. And, they said preparation for the promised land. So my feeling about it is it was 2 weeks from Dartmouth to Johnny Carson, and it's taken me 50 years preparation.
Yes, exactly. Appreciate that, Dale. All right, everybody. Episode 2 in the can. Hope you enjoyed our time together, our conspiry, and we'll look forward to connecting again in the future.
I just want to say that now that you've seen the second episode, now you can go Dale to Dale. The first Dale is the hardest. So as soon as you see the second episode, now you can go Dale to Dale forever. So have a great Dale and take everything one Dale at a time. And thanks a lot, Andrew. I think we're on to something here. And have a great week. And we don't know when we're doing our next episode, but keep a lookout, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah. Love you guys.
Okay.